The Paramount days at Kings Island were definitely a very unique era for the park. From fairly easy additions like a Wild Thornberry's Log Flume re-theme to the Son of Beast to easily the most heavily themed, totally immersive dark ride adventure to ever come to a regional theme park. For my tastes, Tomb Raider the Ride is easily the best ride Kings Island has ever put into a park. It had thrills, which are everywhere in the park. It had mystery, something the Beast and Flight of Fear have. And best of all, it had, at least inside the building, universal level theming and storytelling. Also, that was present for the entrance facade, but I digress. That's the entire package. Without the universal crowds and without the need for me, personally, to spend a week in town to visit. And it's not a touristy town either, so you could dedicate it to just one place and you don't have to split it across 5 different places. Orlando. It's pretty busy. But some people were not fans of the Paramount era. They often have valid points as they removed some classics. They did Son of Beast, which personally I actually appreciated the attempt despite the bad manufacturer choice. I have a video about that, praising the ride a little bit. And Paramount also used to use the park basically as free advertising for their movies, but that's just how movie studio parks work, really. But for me, when they went all out and did something more than just a thrilling ride, I loved it, right? They had Delirium, and that was just a thrill ride. It was still fun. And by the way, you had a longer ride sequence. It was fantastic. They had Backlot Stunt Coaster. Just kidding. It was called Italian Job Stunt Track. And I loved it because they had just a couple more effects than we do now. So it's not so bad. So thank you, Cedar Fair. I loved it when they went all out with the theming. I think it's the reason why when I finally got to visit Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, I felt like I was home. But that's another video. It's basically just the reason I love immersive, thematically enhanced rides, especially if they're indoor and away from distraction. And maybe why it took me some warming up to accept Cedar Fair, whom I'm a huge fan of nowadays. I think the biggest thing I disliked about Paramount is for getting rid of the Flying Eagles, getting rid of Phantom Theater, for Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo, but come on, that wasn't up to par. Come on, it wasn't a worthy replacement in my eyes, even as a young kid. I was the target demographic, and I was displeased. Though I'm not sure if Paramount also aided in bringing the park Phantom Theater because of the year that they acquired and the year that opened, but I suspect not. But one thing that they did that was fantastic was Tomb Raider the Ride! Not the Crypt. Definitely not the Crypt. After it was reprogrammed to 2 inversions? No. I am curious though, there was a very short run of the thrilling version of the Crypt, but apparently it wasn't good for the ride and it didn't even last a month. So if you rode the thrilling version, where I think there was 8 inversions, please do tell me what it was like. Post a comment. I've never met anyone that's done it. I need to know the deets. What was it like? But anyways, Tomb Raider was such a mystery for me as a young kid. When it first opened, I wasn't even tall enough to ride, so I remember my sister and my dad drawing me a picture of what it was like. And if memory serves me an accurate picture, or memory, of what they drew, it was pretty accurate. Not bad for not being theme park nerds. Essentially, it was a Huss topspin, but huge. Aptly named a giant Huss topspin. I used to see the topspin in Roller Coaster Tycoon when I was younger, like 2 years before it. So when I finally got to ride it, and I realized that it was the same ride, I felt like I got to check off a bucket list item at the ripe old age of 10 or something. So Tomb Raider had it all though. It was a fantastic indoor queue, a waiting room, a pre-show room, which eventually opened up into the main showroom. You would board onto a platform. You'd see 3 rows of seemingly endless chairs. You can Google the actual amount. I think it's like 70 or so. And you would pass a structure of some sort. It was actually the A structure holding one of the sides of the arms. But you couldn't easily see above you or beyond the immediate area with all the floodlights pointed right at you. It was exhilarating. Oh, by the way, you didn't need lockers. They had pouches in front of you. And the story beats and the thematic timed moments throughout created an unforgettable experience that felt akin to what you'd expect or what you experienced at Orlando. On top of that, the maneuvers that you went through were genuinely fun and seemed and felt really crazy. It was a thrill ride with Universal-like theming, like I keep saying. Even the ending was a cliche of a Universal ride, with some dialogue signaling the ride has concluded with something along the lines of, "No one gets the best of Laura. I didn't raise that kind of girl." Something like that. The only thing was missing was, maybe Laura herself would be like, "Wow, you did it. I couldn't have done it without you." Something along those lines would be very cliche. But we did not have that. So, unfortunately, this ride felt a slow, painful death, as it was mutilated by the Paramount company leaving and us losing the licensure. It was basically altered to remove one of the 3 rows of the seats, theoretically to lighten the load off the pendulum, allow the machine to make a more aggressive and thrilling ride. I would have preferred they reprogram with a similar thrill level, or keep the same program but just use the very generic effects, or even just blackout, like no effects, just let us feel the maneuvers, right? But again, Retrospective is 2020 vision, and it is also the show in 2023 at Kings Island, if you didn't know. But the park was trying to do what they thought was the best call. After all, Tomb Raider the Ride, as great as it was, had loads of downtime anyways, so I mean, I remember it being down for more than a month before I assumed to get it part. I mean, my cousin worked at the ride. I just don't remember what he said. It was a very huge ride system with large amounts of power consumption and lots of moving parts. I mean, they had to be synced with timed thematic elements, including strobes, lights, water, sound. It's not surprising that it went down all the time. I can't say I've ever rode without one of the elements working, so it seems like they at least didn't want you to get the partial experience. But I wasn't there every day, so who knows. But anyways, if I'm gonna postulate, and I am, I would wager that cutting off the 3rd row may have made the balance of the carriage to be thrown off and made more uneven wear and tear for the motors, is what I would assume. Assuming there were chains in those mechanisms. Whatever the actual cause, most of the lifespan of the crypt was an indoor Ferris wheel. But with 2 movements that very slowly locked the carriage just to invert you with the arms swinging down, I mean, the hang time was fun, but it was a little disappointing. Compared to the original ride sequence, it was always cool to revisit a very huge machine, though. It was good for reminiscing and especially getting out of the sun. Also, working Cavern of Terror during Haunt, that was a great way to revisit the space, though the machine was gone, the ride was gone. But yeah, to get out of the sun, Kings Island, we need more indoor attractions, please. Begging you, man. We need more shade. We need more things to do inside. Man, that's one thing I liked about Paramount, is that they added a dark ride, and the existing one, it was great quality, to me anyways. Back on topic, the crypt never had a line during the Ferris wheel days, so after so many years, the ride was ultimately removed with the building surviving. The rest is history, and what's left is hope. Hope for something worthy of the giant show building that Diamondback has to avoid with the first drop. It's very bittersweet, as for a moment it gave me hope that we would get a good replacement since it was still left behind, the building I mean. But now more than a decade left, no replacement exists, no talks or anything. I hope that means that we still have hope for something great one day. I hope that that's not a citation. I hope it's not a premonition foreshadowing that even the Vortex plot could never be replaced. After all, the Son of Beast station is still standing, though there are some rumors going around. I don't know. I haven't seen anything substantiated, but I just hate to see things standing but not operating for so long, especially when it's something that would get me out of the sun. Man, Kings Island needs some bigger trees, please. Anyways, to give a brief review, hopefully it's brief, of the ride experience, what it was like for me, it was awe-inspiring. It was magical. Genuinely. I personally was not a huge fan of Tomb Raider movies because I was so young, but I did remember a little bit because I had watched them with my parents, but again, I was super young. I didn't really commit much to memory for it, but it was enough to recognize that Angelina Jolie, that she was an awesome action movie character. It was fun. That's basically it. So beyond that, I had played some demos for the games, But I never owned the full game back then, which is probably for the best because I would not have been able to complete it anyways. Just like Resident Evil 4, I had that game and I tried, and I basically replayed that intro for years. And then eventually one day I just never picked it up again. But I never completed it because I just wasn't good at games because I was a little tiny kid. Anyways, the point being, I knew the IP, and while I wasn't die hard for it, I knew it enough to appreciate it and to think it was cool. Stepping into the queue line, though, for the first time, it was mysterious, it was spooky almost. From the signage, I knew the ride would get you wet, I knew you went upside down, but I had no idea what kind of aggressiveness was in store. I felt like an explorer going through an actual cave, an actual tomb for the first time, and when that sliding door moved to the side after being illuminated, I knew this was cool. As for the ride itself, probably the perfect way to start the ride. The thrill of facing right at the goddess, and then strobes, loud noises, her wrath finally making you have to pay for just being there, I guess. It's followed by your first inversion. You plummet down, you get yanked down and around. Oh my. The sequencing was fantastic, and it really felt like a showcase of specific moments of danger, like we were trying to escape, but kept hitting roadblocks, like the stalactites, fully illuminated blue, but only once you get up there, with skeletons somehow wedged in there and getting dripped with water. A fantastic touch, you know? Oh, side note, when I visited Orlando recently, I discovered that getting light sprays or drips of water on immersive rides, that's like the signature feature of a thrilling, totally immersive, heavily themed dark ride! The finale of Dangling Over Lava, the only thing that would have made it better was if they had heat blowers, akin to the heat blower at the end of Phantom Theater, or put fire on the sides, or below your feet, or to the side of your feet, but basically somewhere it wouldn't scorch you. I was thinking closer to the wall, and actually closer to the arms of the mechanism. But anyways, it was fantastic how it was already, and added fun with the water jet spraying up at you. It was like a callback to what other top spins did, but perfected to feel like a cinematic experience. Big surprise, right? With the show audio and the shake of the ride, like the ride would slowly kind of shake as it slowly lowered you. I don't know if that was intentional, but I liked it. And then when you exit, oh yeah, leaving the stalactite section, you're facing straight up, right? And then when you exit that show section, you fly backwards and upside down. And by the way, no one mentions this, the sound of the ride itself, especially that part, you can hear it. You can hear and feel the power of the ride. With the music and the score and all. You can also hear basically the sound of delirium at the bottom of its swings. It's that sound, but with incredible volume being reverberated in that show chamber. Yeah, it's great. But anyways, back to the lava. You exit that by letting the motor basically assist gravity, and you like whip from facing straight down to swinging right side up, and the large arm moving away from the lava, if that makes sense. Like forward. You went forward. After that, all the show scenes are lit up, and you basically rotate around the entire show building as like a last farewell before the end. Yeah, it was incredible. Super thrilling. It was a ton of fun. I felt like I was gonna fall out because I was a little kid. I didn't know. I mean, I was tall enough, but I still was just like, what if this thing comes undone? I just wasn't used to like having to rely on my restraints so much. But yeah, so that happens. Then the final dialogue hits and you exit the Universal Studio. You exit into Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio. Sorry, get confused. But it was crazy, man. The ride birthed an expectation in me, unfortunately and fortunately, that a dark ride deserves to be all out. It's a shame Cedar Fair doesn't really have the budget, or maybe they just don't care to do this type of stuff. They're doing a lot better nowadays, though. So I've been impressed, considering how much they have to, how many parks they have to run, and so. But still, it was a nice way to get introduced to thematic rides. But I don't think Cedar Fair has the budget for it. Because Paramount spent on Kings Island. They really spent. But anyways, that's my review of Tomb Raider: The Ride.